Okay, your tutorial today is on symbols and clipping mask, but first you're going to go into your Google Drive folder and be sure that your file management is properly organized. So let's go into my Digital Art 1 class for period 7, and I'm going to double click on my folder, and I'm going to go into Karishma Johnson's folder, which is a student in my period 7 class. And she has everything really nicely. See, this is her semester 1 folder, and when I click on that, she has really nice file management here. And for Karishma, I'm going to go ahead and just for purposes of this tutorial, I'm going to make a new folder for her titled Adobe Tools, ADOBE-TOOLS. And I'm going to create that folder so that you can see what that folder looks like, called Adobe Tools. And any of the projects that she creates in the Adobe Tools unit are going to go in that folder. And if I click on her, the dot, the line, and 3 basic shapes, I can see really nice, see, I can see all of her progress on her folder, in her folder on her project, okay? And that's what I should be seeing from everyone. If you want to get a 50 out of 50 points for your file management, that's what I need to see. I need to see file management so when I go into your folder, I can see all of the things that you've done so far. Let's go over to Blended Schools. So in Blended Schools, when I go to your Digital Art, and 1 and 2, Digital Art 2 students, like I've said, your assignments are going to be a little bit more complex, but I need to make sure that you understand how to navigate through the tools and the options before I start giving you more complex assignments. Let's go to Modules. And you should be doing these assignments in order that they come up in the modules. I know that some of you are skipping around, and I'm not really sure why you're doing that, but I've repeatedly explained that you just do them in order. So the more that you get uploaded to your file, the better off it'll be when we get down to the final semester 1 grading. Everything between file management in Unit 6 and CMYK was due for your progress report. And if you notice, next to it are all of the due dates, okay? Basic shapes through these tutorials are going to be due for your semester 1 grade. And then your personal logo as well. Part of that is going to be due as well. So you should be working on basic shapes if you haven't done that yet, modifying those shapes. And then all of these tutorials require that you upload a simple practice activity to your folder. So make sure you're getting that done. Let's go to Adobe Illustrator. When you get into Adobe Illustrator, we're going to create a new folder, and a new file with 2 artboards. I'm just waiting for this to open up on my computer. So let's click out of that. Let's go up to, let's make this a little bigger so you can see what I'm doing. Oops. Let's get that inside this casting. Okay, so let's go to File, New. Let's title this Symbols and Clipping Mask. And let's do 2 artboards. Let's do the spacing at about, 30 points. And we're going to do it in 2 columns. We have some options here for how we want our artboards to look, but we'll do 2 columns for right now, and we don't want it to be in points, we want it to be inches. So let's go to inches. And 8.5 by 11 is just fine, and let's click OK. So we have Symbols and Clipping Mask as a name, right? 2 artboards, Spacing, all right, it's changed it a little bit for us, that's fine. And we're just going to go, okay. And there we go. And when we're talking about spacing, we're talking about how far apart they are in the column. We're going to select the first artboard. Let's make sure that we have visibility for all the tools we're going to use. Make sure transparency is selected. And then let's go back up to window, make sure we can see artboards. And the first artboard is highlighted and we can see it right here. And what we're going to use today is we're going to learn more about our symbols tool. So I'll show you several different ways in which you can locate your symbols tool. When you click on swatches, you can see swatches, brushes, and symbols. You can click on the brush icon, you can see swatches, brushes, and symbols. And then you have this clover icon right here. It looks like a clover. Not a 4-leaf clover, a 3-leaf clover. And you can see your symbols here. And what you have selected is whatever was selected from your symbols library. Now, just about anyone who uses Adobe Illustrator can select any of the same exact symbols from the symbols library. But what makes it unique and what makes your art unique and personal is when you can create your own brushes or your own symbols or your own gradients. And that's what we looked at in our last tutorial. So you need to be keeping up with all of these tutorials and uploading your assignments into Google Drive. In our last tutorial, you learned how to create your own brushes. You learned how to create a calligraphic brush, art brush, and a pattern brush. And today, you're going to learn how to create symbols. I'm going to pick this Gerbera daisy. It's a daisy, and this is a ribbon. Here we have some trim marks. We have some illuminated oranges and some splatter, so on and so forth. So let's play around with the Gerbera daisy for right now. I'm going to select that, and I know it's selected because I have the black outline around it. And I'm going to go here to my symbol sprayer, and the symbol sprayer is used with the symbols. So let's click on our symbol sprayer, and we've got that Gerbera daisy selected, and I'm going to spray. And I get a really cool, what looks like a bouquet of flowers, and it happens to work really well with the Gerbera daisy. Now, knowing what you know from previous tutorials and lessons, you could either modify some shapes or use your line tool, your pen tool, create maybe some stems down here, a ribbon, a bow, and make a bouquet of flowers out of this. And that's how you start to be able to use your knowledge with Adobe Illustrator to create unique and different artwork that separates you from all of the other people out there using Adobe Illustrator. What happens if I want to make a border or a pattern with my Gerbera daisies? I could do that. I can right click on my arrow and I could go ahead and I can change a lot of things. I can shift my symbols around. I can scrunch them. So what if I wanted to scrunch them together so they're closer? I can change and manipulate my symbols. So go ahead and play around with that in your free time. Let's go back to my symbol sprayer tool. So that was a right click on the drop down arrow, but I can double click right on the symbol and get a dialog box, right? So I can have a drop down box or a dialog box. My dialog box, I can change the diameter, the intensity, the symbol density, and then of course go back to all of those other symbols that I just saw and play around with my symbols. And so you can check that out, go to your library, super cool symbols, find something that you like and practice using that in this tutorial. So for right now I'm just going to delete that because I don't really want any of those. But for you, when you're uploading a file for me to look at, you're going to go ahead and show me that you've actually played around a little bit with a symbol from the library, and you might look like that. And then what you're going to do is you're going to practice making your own symbols. So let's go ahead and do that right now. You can make any symbol you want. But here's how I'm going to do it. I'm going to go back to my brush tool, and I'm going to select one of my brushes that I like, and I'm going to get this sketchy brush, and I want it at one point. I want to make sure that I have a stroke. So let's go here to my stroke. So my stroke icon right here, I can change that to maybe a 2 point here. But look, I can also change that right up here too. So if I wanted to go back to 1 point, I can click it here. So stroke here or stroke here. And I'm just going to keep it black. If you want to create a colorful symbol, then you have to select that beforehand. And there is a way for you to change that, but for right now we're going to stick with the basics. I'm going to just make a black stroke with no fill, and I'm going to make sure that my sketchy brush is selected right here, and I'm all good to go. Got my brush tool selected here, and there's my symbol that I want to recreate someplace. And so, I mean, the symbol could be anything. It could be your monogram. It could be that would be my monogram. Actually, I like that. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to select this and then delete that. And see, because I did it in different pieces, I'm going to do that. Select each of it. And I'm going to go ahead with my black arrow. Remember, my black arrow tool is my selection tool, or my direct selection tool. I want to have, these are two different functions. They do two different things. And we should be learning that for more tutorials. But I'm going to be in my black arrow tool. I want to actually select this, and I want to group this, because I want this to be one completely. This is my monogram, my initials, RFL. And now I have that not only grouped, but selected again. I'm going to go over to my symbols. I'm going to go to the drop-down box here and go New Symbol. And I'm going to call that RFL monogram. And I don't want it to be a movie clip. I want it to be a graphic. And I'm going to go OK. And there it is. It appears right there. And I can now grab my symbol sprayer, which is right here, and I can go ahead and I can spray my RFLs everywhere. And then I can go here and I can reduce it, hold down my shift key so it stays in proportion. I can make them smaller, bigger. I could have made them smaller to begin with. I can delete that one if I don't want that big one in there, and I can move these small ones around. And I now have my border, my RFL border everywhere. And that's how you make a new symbol. So let's try it again. Let's do something else. Let's go to brushes, and we made some new brushes in our last tutorial, so you can go back maybe and grab one of those brushes. You can grab this calligraphic mark right here, and maybe I'm gonna, let's see, I gotta make a, but you gotta make sure your stroke is selected, and you've got to fill. So let's make a red. I've got this. And let's play around with this a little bit. Let me see this. Let me pull one of my shapes. Let's see from here. So maybe I want that thicker. And maybe I want to make this my new symbol. And I'm going to call it red spiral. Make sure it's a graphic. Go OK. And there's my red spiral in here. And then I can take my my sprayer tool, and I can spray red spirals everywhere, wherever I want them to be. So have some fun making your tools and making your symbols, I should say. But for right now, I'm going to go ahead and delete that. But make sure that I can see that you've experimented with maybe some symbols in your library, and maybe you've created some of your own symbols, and you've played around with that. Let's go to artboard number 2. And I'm going to click on artboard number 2 so that it's here in the palette, in my workspace, I should say, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to experiment with the clipping mask. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to my symbol sprayer, and I'm going to spray some of my RFL everywhere here. And I'm going to also reduce it. So I'm going to get my black arrow tool, and I'm going to click on one of the handles, and I'm going to make it smaller. And I'm going to move it to the center of my artboard. And I'm going to go ahead over here to my shapes tool, and I'm going to select a shape, and I'm going to select my star. I'm going to hold down my shift key so my star gets right kind of in the center of that. And I'm also going to be sure that my star has a stroke so I can see it. I'm going to make it a red stroke. Okay, so there we go. And I want to make sure that the weight of my stroke is a little bit bigger so I can actually see it. So I now have, I'm going to go to my direct selection tool, click out of that. I have a star that I drew over my symbols with a 2-point red stroke. I now have my black arrow tool that I selected, see it's selected here, and I'm going to go ahead and select both the star and that symbol background. And then I'm going to go to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And what happens is everything that was part of the background has become my star, has filled my star. And I'm going to go ahead and now I'm going to go back, and because it didn't keep my change, so I want to make sure that that stroke is red and that stroke line is a little bit bigger. 2 point. Okay, so I kind of like that. I'm going to put that over here. Maybe I'll make it a little smaller. I can make sure that it's marqueed, which means it's all selected. Go to the corner. I can make that smaller. I can select that, and I can do all kinds of things with it. So play around with, you can rotate it. Behind your rotation tool is your reflect tool. So I can actually click on reflect. You see my reflect is now available, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's a blue little anchor point in the center, and if I do this, I can now reflect my star. Woo. Oops. And boop, come back here and pull it out. And just change it around and rotate it and grab it here, drag it here. I'm going to go ahead and click my Alt key and drag out a copy of it. I have 2 of them now. I can overlap them. I could change their colors, their properties. So I'm going to have this first one selected. I'm going to go over to swatches. I'm going to maybe have my outline stay black, but my fill be orange. And maybe I'm going to allow this one have my stroke to be red and my fill to be maybe a blue. And then I can also play around with transparency now. Now, for those of you who've been keeping up with my tutorials, go to your transparency icon. Oops, right here. The two circles that intersect, transparency. When you run your cursor over it, should say transparency. Click on that. And select one of your stars or one of your shapes, and you can change the opacity of your shape. So I'm going to bring that down to about 44%, and I could actually see the orange star through it. And then I can also do things like select that star and go here to this drop down box and play around with some other. See, that does something, a difference. Let's see, exclusion is pretty cool. Hard light changes things around. I'm kind of partial to the difference. I always seem to like that more than anything else. And then when I'm happy with it, I could go ahead and select that and group it. And now wherever I move it, it moves together as one shape. And I'm going to go ahead and make that small and put that up at the top. I'm going to show you how to put a photograph in a clipping mask as well. Let's just try that one more time. Here I am with my symbols. I'm going to grab this, what is this called again? Illuminated orange. And I'm going to spray some symbols right here. So I have a bunch of orange symbols right here. Maybe spray a little bit more. I'm going to take one of my shapes, maybe my polygon tool. I'm going to hold down my shift key. I'm going to draw a polygon. And I'm going to move that polygon right here so that I'm going to make sure in my swatches that I have no fill, that my stroke is this color. I'm just picking something, anything. You can pick anything you want. I'm going to make my stroke about a 3-point stroke. And I'm going to go to select with my black arrow tool both my symbols background, my textural background, it's very textural, and my shape, object, clipping mask, make, and there I have a polygon tool, a polygon shape I should say, filled with these orange bubbles. I hit my Alt key, I'm going to pull that out, and I have 2 of them now. And I'm going to go back to my swatches. I'm going to make sure that my stroke, I'm going to make it black. I'm going to make it larger, maybe a 3-point stroke. And let's see, can I put a fill on that? Does it need a fill? Oh, only where the little white spaces are showing is where the fill is going to go. So if we had less of the orange bubbles in there, we'd have more of a background fill. In this case, we have it filled up with orange bubbles, and we have a little white space here and a little white space there. So if we put a fill in there, we can see just a tiny bit. So that's something that you can decide. How much texture do you want to fill up your shape with? Do you want to have a fill in the background? Do you want to just see your texture showing through? Okay? All right. So I'm going to delete that. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a clipping mask with a photograph. Now, in order to do this, you need to go to Google Drive. Not Google Drive, but Google your browser. And you're going to find a photo of anything you like. It doesn't matter whether it's royalty free or not. And save it to your computer in Building C. So save it right to the hard drive, your file. And so when you go ahead and go up to File, so you have to do that beforehand before you can do this. So go ahead and find your photo. Stop the video and find your photo. Save it to the Building C computer that you work on every day. Then, when you've done that, you're going to come back to your folder, your file I should say here. You're going to go up to File. You're going to go File, Place, not File, New. Go File, Place. And it's going to bring up the option for you to pull up the photographs that you want to look at. And when you're in Google Drive and you're looking for your photos, I keep saying Google Drive, but you know what I mean. When you're browsing for photos, you want to browse for a small photo. Don't get a big giant photo. And if you're not sure how to find out what the size of the photos are, call me over. I'll show you how to do that. But I'm going to pick this photo right now, and I probably should have resized this in Photoshop, but since we're not up to that assignment yet, let's just go ahead and you pick a small photo, a small to medium photo. I'm going to pick this photo and resize it right here in Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to go, I selected it because it's turned blue. I'm going to go place. And there it is. And this is really handy when we're going to learn how to do an InDesign layout, or when you need to place something right inside a design. I'm going to go OK. I'm going to click on it. And of course my photograph is way too big for this because I did not resize it for Adobe Illustrator. I'm going to click the Shift key and I'm going to resize it. I could also use a scale tool to resize my photograph. My computer's very slow right now. So let me resize this and then I'll get it all sized up and we can go ahead and I'll show you how to do a clipping mask with a photograph. Okay, so here's my photo and it's resized. I held down my Shift key and now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to rotate that. And I'm going to take my star tool. Take any of the shape tool, it's just not the flare tool. Hold down your Shift key. Pull out your shape over your photo. And then I happen to have a red fill on this. You do not have to have a fill on this. In fact, the fill is going to go away as soon as we make a clipping mask. So let's go ahead and take the fill out of there because we don't want any fill because we want to see our photo underneath it so we can see what part of the photo we're getting. Okay. And wait. Here we go. And make sure that we're giving the shape a stroke so we can actually see where it is. So there we go. Alright, so let's go ahead and let's move that. I'm going to move that shape around a little bit to where I like it. And once I get it to where I want it to be, I'm going to make sure that with my black arrow tool, I select both the photograph and the shape. They're both selected now. Go up to Object, Clipping Mask, Make. And we have our photo right inside our shape. And we can go ahead and, depending on what we like, we can put a fill in the background if we wanted to, for the little bits that are showing through there. Or not. Whatever. You know, you can have your photo filling the whole entire space. Ideally, that's what you'd want to happen. But in the cases where it's not and need to fill it in, I just put a little bit of black fill right in the background. You can't even tell. And I have that image right there inside my shape. And so there you have it. You can also do this with text, and we're going to see that in our next tutorial. You can get some nice big block letter text, and you can insert photographs inside your text.